Hi, my name's Jim Carter and I'm the author of Hearts of Steel. And through the next few videos, I'm going to just give you a flavour of the source material that I used to write the narrative and actually how I came about writing the book. Now, my great-grandfather was a naval seaman. I've learned that from a book that my grandmother gave me, Doreen. She gave me this book. There's a coffee table book called War at Sea, 1939 to 1945, by a German chap called Jürgen Roher. Now, within that book, she has annotated a few little notes here and there that gave me a flavour of what my great-grandfather was up to. And it transpired that he was aboard a tribal class destroyer, HMS Nubian, and he was based predominantly in the Eastern Mediterranean during the first part of World War II. He'd also served in Norway, and he did convoy duties in the early stages of the war. And that was basically it. But that piqued my interest. I've got an interest in military history, obviously, and I knew a little bit about the Eastern Mediterranean. I knew about tribal class destroyers, and I thought I want to learn more. What really kicked things off was when my mother gave me this document, which is Herbert's S459, Certificate of Service in the Royal Navy, which not only talks about his physical characteristics, where he lived, how tall he was, what colour eyes he's got, what his colour his hair, etc. But it lists all of the ships that he served in when he joined in July 1918 through to his demobilisation in September 1945. At the back it also lists his captains. So every year each sailor was assessed and his captain signed off his conduct for the previous year. So I had the basis of a tale. What really looked interesting was that within the S459, the Navy told you when the man joined the ship and when he left it. Sometimes just for 6 months, sometimes for longer. So I then thought, well, okay, I can actually place the man on the ship at a particular time in history, and perhaps there are tales behind that. And of course, as soon as you start to do that, you've got a timeline for your book, and then you've got lots of different subject matter potentially in there from a historical perspective. So I began to delve deeper. What I found was that there were three major instances here. He was aboard two Hawkins type cruisers, HMS Effingham and HMS Hawkins, and he went to the East Indies squadron with those two ships on commissions that lasted 2.5 years at a time, which, when you think about it, it's an awful long time away from your home, your family and your friends, etc. It's a big commitment, and he did that twice. And I managed to find two publications detailing those commissions, and we'll talk about those in another video. Then obviously he came back and he was assigned to HMS Nubian. Nubian was really in the thick of it from the get-go in World War II. She served in Norway and then in the Eastern Mediterranean, and she won as many battle honours as Warspite and Jervis, which was 13 in total. In fact, you could argue that she earned more, because she actually had 3 in the Mediterranean alone, which are always counted as 1. And Herbert was aboard for most of those. So what I was then thinking I was able to do was to talk about the ships and talk about the people that served on those ships. Now, the captains, obviously, they're very interesting characters. Certainly at the start of the war, they're incredibly experienced guys, and they fought in World War I, so we could talk about those guys. There's the ships themselves, how they were designed, how they were developed, what were the reasonings behind those, what was the build-up like to World War II, and then the conflict itself. And that really opened up some interesting possibilities for me, because then you can start delving into a number of different sources, and what you saw at the start of World War II and those years through 1940, 41 and 42 is that as a nation, Great Britain, and a military nation, Great Britain was learning warfare once more and learning combined operations and catching up rapidly with the Germans, who had kind of run away with the techniques in warfare at that time. And so I was able to start talking about things that, the Royal Navy really interested me, but I'm a private pilot, so I could include the air aspect from the Fleet Air Arm and the Royal Air Force, and of course the Army, because the Army was used to get into Norway in the early part of World War II, and then there was the North African campaign, which in 1940 is quite often overlooked somewhat. There's been a few books lately that touched on this, but we had some great success early on, which was very much squandered. We pushed the Italians right the way out of North Africa, out to Tripoli, and then half the forces had to go off and assist with Greece, which let in Rommel, and there was this backwards and forwards for many years until El Alamein. So there are a number of different topics, associated topics, that I could pick up that, whilst not immediately obvious, they definitely impacted on what HMS Nubian was doing, because she was part of the overall picture, and that really excited me. So I was able to tell a lot of different tales from a lot of different sources, and I hope that what I've managed to do is create a narrative that isn't just talking about one man and his experience, but it's talking about a range of people's experiences from a number of different sources, and with luck, if it's something that you've been interested in but never delved into, it'll give you an opening to look into a number of different publications that will widen your knowledge as it's widened mine. So I hope you enjoy these few videos, and if you get round to it and get a copy of the book, I really hope you enjoy that too. Thanks for listening.